Well, I see on Facebook that the 15th anniversary of Francine Delany will be celebrated this Friday, and I just wanted to say congratulations. I really miss that, the fact that I can't really participate in a celebration like that anymore. I have a lot of fond memories of those days in the beginning of school, and I was so proud of my wife and her friends for what they had pulled together and done, and I was proud to be able to help in small ways to help her do what she did, and I miss you guys, and so I just wanted to say congratulations. As you may have heard, in these last couple years, I got diagnosed with something called Asperger syndrome, and I don't know how much you understand about Asperger syndrome as it pertains to adults. This is something that wasn't really being diagnosed at all until 1994, and it wasn't being looked at all when I was young, when I was in school. But the characteristics associated with Asperger syndrome explain everything about what I was good at in my life and what I was not good at. And it's just been an amazing experience for me to read about myself in these textbooks. Tony Atwood's work on Asperger syndrome is just one of the big eye-openers for a person like me who's lived with this all of their life but not quite understood what was going on with me. So I have been going back and just recognizing times in my life when this played a real important part of some of my difficulties. I've got a lot of stories about how it explains some of my successes, and I have been wanting to share those. I've been wanting to share those in the form of videos, and I've been doing a lot of writing on the subject. But something I want to work on also is illustrating some of the difficulties that people have when they don't understand the social settings. They don't understand how to read people, how to read body language, how to read faces, how to read between the lines in a conversation. People with Asperger's tend to take things very literally, and one classic stereotype of Asperger's would be a person like Dr. Spock on Star Trek. And nowadays, for younger people, they would think of someone like Shelton on on the show Big Bang Theory. Actually, I think all three of the main male characters in the Big Bang Theory are different manifestations of something on the autism spectrum, but everybody points to Shelton. But in real life, you know, you take this out of the textbook and you take it out of the classroom where you're dealing with elementary school children and their behaviors and quirks and their different ways of learning. You apply what this is to an adult, especially an adult who's living with it without being aware that there even is such a thing as autism. There's some real concrete examples of what this can mean to people and relationships, and I want to explore some of that. But on the first day of school in 1997, there was an incident that may be long forgotten by everyone involved except me, that I want to talk about a little bit, and I want to explain, and I want to apologize for. First day of school in the new buildings, I stopped by to check in with my wife. At the end of the day, you'd gotten through the school day, the kids had gone home, and there was a staff meeting going on in one of the classrooms next to Debbie's classroom. And so I could tell that there were just a couple of little small talk conversations going on around the tables. There was about a dozen people there, and there wasn't anything real formal happening right at that moment. So I opened the door and went on in there, and then something happened that just totally perplexed me, and it was really quick. I mean, you were talking about a 60-second incident, about a 1-minute incident. It takes me longer to describe it than it actually took for it to happen. But and those of you who were there, you'll remember what I'm talking about. And so I'll try to run through quickly. I walked in the classroom. One of the founders turned before I had a chance to even speak. Turned and saw me and announced to the group, "Everything's falling right into place today. Here's our plumber." And she turned to me and said, "We have a stopped-up toilet for you." And everybody laughed. Well, I didn't quite understand what was going on, but what popped into my head was that people think I work in sewage, and so I'm the perfect person, just walked in the door to take care of the stopped-up toilet. Now, I wouldn't have been opposed to unstopping a toilet if someone had said, "Would you do us a favor?" I would have said yes before even asking what the favor was. But I thought it was a joke, and I wasn't sure what my response was supposed to be. Everyone was looking at me for a response. And so I said, I don't do toilets. I do construction. And I said, I don't even have a plunger on my truck. And she said, well, we have a plunger you can use. And then I was even more perplexed, because I thought, here's a group of adults, they have a plunger, but they don't know how to use it. And they were waiting for an expert to come along or something. I didn't know. I just had all these mixed up feelings. And everybody thought that this was very humorous, or I perceived that everybody thought this was very humorous, and I didn't understand why. And I thought also that they think I have sewage on me already anyway. So I said, but I can't use a plunger any better than anybody else. I said, you just take it and go up and down like this. And everything got really quiet, and everybody looked down at the table, and everybody got all serious, and I just didn't understand what was going on. So I said, I just wanted to talk to Debbie for a minute, and I turned and went out the building. Debbie came out and scolded me for embarrassing her. She said, everybody's worked hard all day. Everybody's, you know, they've been plunging toilets all day. They keep stopping up. And, but she said, I have to go back to the meeting. So she went back in, and I went to my truck. Well, 1 minute incident, really confused. And so it takes me a while to process in a conversation. I can bring up something that was being talked about a few minutes earlier, you know, so in taking a few minutes to process what had happened, I knew I hadn't reacted the right way, and I had all these feelings that welled up, and I didn't quite understand until within the first hour or so after that happened. I realized that they may not have thought I had sewage on me. I had been to the grocery store earlier and run into a good friend of mine from church, an older professional man, but we had great intellectual conversations at church, and I thought of him as one of my best friends. I had seen him at the grocery store, and I went to shake his hand, and he kind of recoiled from me, and he said, I'm not going to shake your hand until you explain what that is all over you. And I looked at myself, and I realized, well, I had black on my shirt that was from cast iron pipe that's coated with tar, and so I had black on me, and my hands were kind of brown and green, and I'd washed them, but when you handle copper all day, and the flux and everything that you use with copper, and lead solder and all that, your hands, the metal turns your hands kind of green. And so even though I'd washed my hands, they were still green. And I had mud on my pants and old remnants of PVC glue stuck to me here and there, stuck to my skin, you know, it was the stuff that I work with in construction. And so I explained to him what all this was, and he relaxed. He said, oh, okay. And then he shook my hand, and we went on. And in thinking about what that had all meant, I realized a little bit later, he thought I had sewage on me. All he knew about me was I was a plumber, and he saw me dirty, and he assumed I had sewage on me. So when I walked into that room, I thought, people think I walk around with sewage on me, and I thought that was a joke. And that is not what people had been thinking, but I figured that all out, but it took me the next hour or so to do that. And so when I saw Debbie again later, she was understandably upset with me, visibly upset with me. And I told her that I realized I'd made a big mistake. I thought everybody was laughing at me for having crap on me. And I was trying to say, I don't have crap on me. I was trying to find the polite way to say, it's just dirt. And it just had to come out all wrong. And I asked her, when are you going to meet again the next time all together? I'll come by the next day. And I wanted to apologize to the whole group and tell them what had gone through my head and why I reacted that way. Try to explain anyway. And here again, not knowing anything about Asperger's, just this is who I was and this is what had happened in my head. And she softened her attitude and she said, no, you don't have to explain. I told them the whole story. They understand. They said they're sorry too. Everybody likes you, Guy, so just forget it. So I said okay, and I accepted that, and I was glad that I wouldn't have to go speak to this group of people, because I didn't know you all very well then at all. I had just been around you a little bit, but not really gotten to know any of you at all, and you hadn't gotten to know me very much at all. But I accepted that. But a person with Asperger's can have what Tony Atwood calls faulty logic. Something can happen in a social situation. The person with Asperger's doesn't understand the undertones of a joke or doesn't understand what's going on with the perspective of the people around them, what's going on in their world. And so can take offense at something where there's no offense intended. And I really understand that that's what happened right there. That I took offense at something because I didn't understand it. And because I thought everyone knew what I knew, that my friend thought I walked around with sewage on me. So I thought they had that in their mind, because I had found out my other friend had that in his mind. So that was the end of it for me. My wife had explained and apologized on my behalf, and so I didn't bring it up again. Well, it was years later. One time my wife had mentioned how that had hurt that woman's feelings, or not hurt her feelings maybe, but it had embarrassed her in front of everybody. And so I realized that time, many years later, like 10 years later, that people did still remember that incident. And talking to Claire a couple of years ago, I mentioned that incident, and she remembered it. She commented that was a long time ago. Why was I bringing that up? And but I commented that that I had thought that everyone was laughing at me for having shit on me. it became apparent that she didn't know what I was talking about. She remembered the incident about the plunger, but she didn't remember the incident where I thought everyone was laughing at me for having shit on me. And I realized, I don't know what my wife had explained in the meeting, but I had understood that my wife told them the whole story, and they understood, and it was no problem, and that everybody even liked me. I realized she didn't ever hear the whole story, and so that was 15 years ago. The first day of school, everybody was, the adrenaline, I'm sure, was running high. Everybody was thrilled to get through that first day. Everybody was laughing and joking and relieved and proud of themselves. And I came in the door and just put a big downer on everybody. And I'm sorry about that now. And I was sorry about that at the time. But I just wanted to apologize myself, finally. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I did that.